He does not know what to think of this. Because is he on? I mean, we can get him on here. I'm fine with it.
I wish you had a little plastic microphone for
He just
him.
kind of has no idea. He's looking at me like, what's going on? Cool. All right, episode 10. We have the usual cast plus Sean Pastuch with Active Life RX.
What's up?
Hey. How's
Welcome.
it going?
Welcome.
Oh, thank you.
Welcome. Ellie?
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey.
Oh, hey.
We have Trice, Richard Lyle III. And we also have Lakeland. She may swoop in here in a second. We don't know. We're kind of off campus, I guess. We're at the house.
Yes.
Babysitting duty.
This is podcasting and parenting.
You can't hear it? You don't need to hear it.
So are you ready to carry the conversation here?
I'll carry whatever you need.
All right.
As long as it's not heavier than what I can lift.
Listen, I feel $1 million better. He cranked around on my neck today. Is that the right official?
Cranked.
kind of-
I think that's chiropractic
That's scientific.
terms.
He cranked around on my neck, and then my hearing came back, and I'm healed. And
That's the medical terminology.
yeah,
But
yeah.
we just worked on some soft tissues. We looked for what wasn't moving and moved it.
I fell doing some handstand push-ups with Ellie the other day.
I wouldn't say you fell.
So it's
you
Ellie's
were,
fault.
completing reps.
Man, and I got to the end of that thing, and I was super tired. And usually I have that ab mat. You know, I've not really ever done them without the ab mat. And I just, came down on my neck, and literally I couldn't hear out of my ear. It just kind of quit for about a week now. And I could sort of hear, but my poor wife's been, hey, what? Come again? You know, I've been saying all that stuff all
You're on
week.
your chalkboard and sliding it over.
So I actually tried to go to a chiropractor today, and then he just happened to be here, and we were talking about shoulder mobility stuff, which is probably the really important part of this whole thing.
Do you want to give us a little background about what you do?
Sure. Little background. So I have a rehab clinic, right? We call it a chiropractic clinic because that's what people understand as what we do, right? But then we don't do anything like the chiropractors who you know. So we're not adjusting you unless you need to get adjusted. It's not like you don't walk into the office, get your x-rays, get your stim, get your adjustment, and go home. We're really looking for structures that aren't moving well, and we're looking for structures that aren't producing force in the right way. So if it's short, make it long. If it's weak, make it strong. And for us, it's really that simple. So we do that for people in person, and then we do that for people remotely. And it's been pretty cool. We came down here, and Jim was like, hey, I can't hear. And I was like, well,
Let's see what we can do here.
I was like, well, that's a little bit outside of my scope. You know,
Yeah.
I don't really know how I could help that. And I told him honestly, I said, look, we're going to look for what's short. We're going to try to make it long, and then we're going to think about what might be weak. And we talked about some testing that you can do and make it strong down the line. But sometimes cool stuff like that happens.
Yeah.
You know, I've treated a woman before I was telling you,
Yeah.
and a week later,
It's a great
she
story right here.
She couldn't have a baby, couldn't have a baby. Treated her. A week later, she got pregnant. She's like, oh my God, what'd you do? I said, I have no idea. And we're not hanging.
Right.
I'm not taking credit for
I
that.
was like, we're not hanging like the fertility clinic sign.
Yeah.
No, not doing it. We mostly work with orthopedic problems.
Oh, okay. So how did you get into the CrossFit space? I see that you work with a lot of CrossFit athletes now. How did that happen?
So I was treating patients. My father was a chiropractor, and I love the guy. We get along great. We just don't see eye to eye on how this stuff should be done. So I was seeing patients in his office, and the easy path was continue there, right? Good money, easy opportunity. So I did that for about 2 years and realized that every time I told an athlete, you need to take a few weeks off, and then you'll be fine. And I was adjusting them, stimming them, that they would go back to sports and then be like, hey, it's back again. And after 40 or 50 times, I was like, maybe it's not them. It's possible that it's me. So I did some introspection, changed the way I treated, joined a CrossFit gym, and realized that this is a population of people who I really want to work with. So ended up opening my own with a friend of mine. And I said, listen, you know CrossFit better than I do at the time. So he ran the CrossFit gym. I ran the associated clinic. And that's how I got started in CrossFit. And then basically, as I started to feel like I was getting better, I started reaching out to people who were local who I was impressed by their dedication to CrossFit and just saying, I want to help you. If I'm going to get good at this, I need to work with people who are going to recognize when what you're doing is not good. So I want to work with you, and I want you to hold me to the fire and tell me if I'm doing a good job or a bad job. And then one thing led to another, get better at it. Brought a partner on who, Dr. Jeremy, you've met Rich, you've met him at the games. He's great. He's made me a smarter person. He's pushed me to be better. So the two of us together really do a lot of really good stuff. And one thing leads to another. You're working with one person, you end up in Rich Froning's dining room.
Yeah. Well, let's take a step back. That's really interesting to hear. You say that your dad was also a chiropractor, and you said you didn't see the same way. So was that a difficult conversation to say, hey, Dad, I like what you're doing, but I want to do it differently? Or did he say, wow, that's awesome that you're going to do it that way? Or how did that really go?
I like how you used the word was. like that happened once and it hasn't happened since. Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a difficult conversation, because the way his office ran was he was helping people the way he felt like people needed to be helped, and power to him, right? But they were in the room with the patient for 2 minutes. It was you're on ice or you're on heat and you're on stim, and then they come in, they adjust you, tell you what's going on. We'll see you again on Wednesday. I'm in the room with the patient for 15, 20 minutes at the time. And they're like, we need the room. Mm-hmm. We need the room. And I said, well, I haven't helped the person yet. I need to help the person. So it became, they were like, there were days when I love my father. There was a day he took me into a room and he goes, I want you to be quiet. I want you to close your eyes. And I want you to just say nothing until I tell you. And he started a stopwatch. And after a minute, he's like, that was a minute. You're telling me you can't help somebody in that much time? You feel how long that was? And I was like, oh, yeah. I get it.
Work.
I was like, I get it, but I'm seeing more and more that we're just never going to get to the same place. And that's fine. So I'm going to go start my own.
Well, I just think that was incredible that you had the strength to see a situation, especially like that, and say, I'm going to learn from this and I'm going to do it my way and help people in a different perspective. Like, I think that's pretty incredible that you did that. That's awesome.
I appreciate it. Sometimes that's a blessing. Sometimes for me, that's a curse, because I see something, I'm like, I can do that better. And then I start doing it. I'm like, I can't do that.
You have always gone to a chiropractor.
Always, my whole life. Yeah.
I have never gone to a chiropractor. Not because
I wouldn't say my whole life. Sorry, when I was about 10 or 12, I started going to chiropractor.
So why is that something you've done?
I feel like it's worked. We started going. We had a family chiropractor, Chuck Olds, that he did a lot of like homeopathic type stuff too. He wasn't just like you were saying, just crack them and let them go. Like, I've never done stem or heat or ice or anything with him, but he did a bunch of just like he would do a lot of, I guess, immunology testing and stuff like that, and a lot of homeopathic, stuff. So that's kind of I didn't have a family practice doctor growing up, and so. I've just always kind of believed in chiropractic.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the beautiful thing about it is that it's diverse, right? Yeah. Your guy can practice like that. My father can practice the way he did. I can practice the way I do. We're all chiropractors. That's also the problem, because someone who's looking for the help that we provide, whether it's remotely or in person, they've tried chiropractic or they've heard of what chiropractic is, and they're like, I don't need that. And they associate us with it.
Right.
So that's for us in large part where the remote stuff that we do started coming up, because we were working with people and we were like, we can do this for someone in their house. We don't need to ever meet them.
I think what you've done, packaging it, like the Bulletproof Shoulders was one of your programs we talked about. And I had found that long before I met you this week, and I had seen that. Mm-hmm. And that was something I was interested in. For me, going to the chiropractor, my experience was one of, I don't know really why I'm doing that. He kind of does the same thing to me every time. I flip over, I do this, I twist around. I don't really feel any different. I don't know that it ever makes me any better, and so I just quit going. Mm-hmm. What would you say,
So there's two things in there. The first thing is, when you come to see us in person, I mean, you saw it. And
it was a different deal today. Yeah.
If you're coming to our clinic, you don't leave until something has changed. We measure everything. If we're doing shoulder work, we're going to measure your abduction angles with an inclinometer, make sure that it's moving by more degrees after you leave than before you came. And then next time you come back, we're measuring it before we start again to make sure that you're still better than you were last time you came in.
Yeah.
So that happens in person. And for us, we never understood, I asked you if you squatted every day, and I never asked you how much weight is that, and you never knew.
Yeah.
Would you keep squatting if you didn't know if you were getting stronger?
Right.
Like, no. But no one cares to measure how much they can move. They just roll around, grab a band, hump a lacrosse ball, whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, I think I'm looser.
Right.
Well, by what metric?
Right.
So that was problem number one. And then the second thing is the Bulletproof Shoulder stuff. That's one of our remote programs. And we wrote these templates. We have 13 templates now, based off of the way that we were helping people one-on-one and seeing trends, especially in the CrossFit population.
Right.
Bulletproof Shoulders would be, I don't want to say bad, but way less effective for a construction worker.
Right.
Because they don't have the repetitive use injuries that a CrossFitter does. just because they're not doing the same things over and over again. So we were treating people one-on-one and seeing that, oh, they're all really good at pulling down. They're all really good at pressing down.
Right.
They're all really bad at pulling up and really bad at pressing up. And after a while, I think I was telling you, Jeremy and I were like, are we just having like a confirmation bias where we want to see this, so that's what it is? And then we started evaluating people who were outside of the CrossFit space, and they were crushing it. I'm like, okay, no, this is legit.
This is the first time I've ever heard somebody say, you told me what I need to do and what they need to do are the same thing. And it always in CrossFit, what he's doing and what I need to be doing is not the same thing.
Right, and that's by type, not necessarily by specificity, right? You know, there's other things that he needs to do that you might not need to do. When it comes to the shoulders, we see very, very consistently in CrossFitters. Downward rotation is good. They can press down, they can pull down. But if you ask them to press up in a strict way or pull up in a strict way, it's a disaster because we don't do it.
Right. That's crazy. And that's exactly for me my issue. In everything that I'm trying to, when we were trying to snatch the other day, and you're working on me and helping me with that, it's that press up that and the flexibility piece that I don't. Well, you taught me today it wasn't flexibility.
Right.
It was more movement.
When we say flexibility, right? There's mobility and there's flexibility, and people are always they're synonymous for a lot of people, and we don't see them as synonymous. So for you were able to get your arm to here, and then if I pressed it, it went to your ear, no problem.
Right.
You don't have the mobility, which is going to be flexibility plus strength to keep it there.
Right.
So we can get it there, but you don't have the capacity to keep it there. So the work you have to do to finish is so much harder than it should be.
Right.
So for you, we have to put you in positions where you're weak overhead and keep you there.
Right.
So there's going to be static holds in this position, which for you is really uncomfortable, so that over time you become stronger maintaining that end range posture.
Yeah, it just makes sense. It makes perfect sense when you talk about it, but it's not something that's been laid out for me. And we went up to the whiteboard when you guys were working out, and you drew the pyramid. What'd you call the pyramid?
Hierarchy of needs.
Yeah.
So the hierarchy of needs is basically, if you don't have the flexibility, you don't need to work on the strength first. People jump to, I need to become more flexible, or I need to have more skill. Those are the only two things that they see. And for us, flexibility is the base, passive range of motion, right? This is the flexibility of this finger. This is the mobility of that finger. They should be fairly close.
Right.
Like if I can do this, but if I can only get it to here on my own, that's going to be problematic. So we need you to be able to express most of your flexibility. That's what mobility is. And if you can do that, then we want to say, okay, well, can you do that in equal and opposite directions? Right? You can press down, but can you press up?
Right.
And there's a ratio that we feel like is responsible. Like if you can do 10 strict pull-ups and you weigh 200 pounds, we want you to be able to do 10 strict high pulls with a single arm at 66 pounds, 1/3 of your body weight. And most people can't do that. So 1/3 to 1 for the high pull to the pull down. When we start to put that stuff together, it's okay, now your flexibility is good, mobility is good, strength balance is good. How's your work versus recovery ratio? You train 3 hours a day? Cool. You train 1 hour a day? That's great. How's your diet? How's your sleep? How's your stress? For you guys, it has to be dialed in. For the member of your gym, not as much, but it still does.
Still, yeah.
Like I was talking to you, have a stressful night.
Yeah.
You have a kid who's upset, so you didn't sleep well. You ate kind of crappy because you were stressed, and that's what you run to. The next day you come into the gym groggy, feeling like crap, and you're like, I got to burn this stress off, man. Let me do something fast and heavy. That is a bad idea. And then the top of the pyramid, the last thing is skill. You're always working on it.
Right.
You have to always be working on it. But what's the point in working on your snatch technique if you can't get into the positions that good snatch technique requires?
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a good random fact for flexibility and mobility that I'm sitting here chuckling to myself about that I read the other day.
What's that?
I want to know if this is true or false.
Uh-oh.
It said, it is humanly impossible to lick your own elbow.
Humanly impossible?
Humanly impossible to lick. Is that true or false?
None of that's true. I mean,
really?
Listen,
I'm not going to say I didn't try it.
Hold on. Healthy and safe anatomy, you shouldn't be able to lick your own elbow.
Right. Yeah. But there's somebody out there that I guarantee
Yes, exactly. And
so you're saying there's an outlier, but
yes.
99% of us...
Listen, there's two things the general population needs to know about their elbows. They shouldn't be able to lick them, and they shouldn't be able to touch them behind their back. Right?
Really?
So, yeah.
Like,
so
how
if
do you
you're,
mean?
like if
Touch your elbows behind your back.
go ahead, try it.
I mean,
Go
like,
ahead.
how
Ellie,
though?
Ellie, I want you to sit nice and
Any way possible.
sit up nice and straight and try to touch your elbows behind your back.
Well, I mean, give me a break.
Keep going. Right. So this is what we used to do in high school to girls who were well endowed. Right? You can't do it. You can't.
Try harder.
No, you'll get it. You got to work on it.
Well, see, that's a great trick.
Yeah. I have 2 daughters now. That's what happened.
Oh, so back to your, one-on-one personal training and everything. The one phone call we had, I thought was really, really interesting because long before you asked me about anything physical, you asked me, why did I care about getting better and what my life goals, not pertaining to CrossFit, were. And I took a step back and I was like,
And you had no idea.
that's not true.
Crickets.
Not at all. I'm sure I talked his ear off and made his ears bleed.
I'm sure you did.
Anyway, I took a step back at that moment. I immediately thought to myself, this guy is so much more than a chiropractor if he opens up the conversation with that. And I really appreciated that about you. Why is it that you ask those questions? And can you answer those questions for us?
Can I answer them about myself?
Yes. But first, why do you ask your athletes or potential athletes these questions?
There's a lot of reasons to it, right? There's a lot of layers, and Jim could probably even speak to it better than I could. But the reason why we do it is you need to know why this is so important to you, or you're not going to keep doing it when it gets hard. And what we do is hard. And it's hard not just physically, it's hard emotionally, it's hard mentally. It can be hard spiritually for people. It's one of those things where I'm asking you to do the least sexy thing in the gym that day, and I might be asking you not to do the most sexy thing in the gym that day. So if you go to the gym because you're like, dude, I just want to look good naked and be able to hang with my kids, then when I say to you, then do less. You don't need to be doing the competitor program. You need to be able to say, okay. Mm-hmm. Right? But if you don't, then it's okay. Well, then your perception of your reality is off. It's not what you want. So for us, it's important that people understand a little bit more about who they are so that we can always go back to that when times get tough.
That's huge. And you said that to me today, and I really connected it. And I think that's something that we all really identify with, the why behind what you're doing. Mm-hmm. It's not just the do, because we can kind of sort that out and figure that out. But why are you doing what you're doing?
Mm-hmm. And a lot of it's harder in our template programs, like in the bulletproof programs, it's harder to do. But in our one-on-one, our coaches, all of our staff are doctors who have 1,000 hours in a CrossFit gym coaching, right? So they're all in both worlds. And we educate them in a big way about how to have conversations like that. Because I want somebody to call me and say, hey, I don't know what to do because the captain of my team wants me to do this, and I know that that's a problem for me. How do I talk to them so that they understand that what I'm doing is actually the best thing for the team? Because that allows them to have full circle success, as opposed to going to the captain and saying, I just need to do this because Sean told me to do it, and you just need to let me. Because then that person's going to be like, well, who's Sean? And why are you working with him?
Right.
Right? So we need to educate people in a way that a lot of other coaches don't. And to do that, we need them to be educated. And for them to be educated, we need them to be inspired and motivated. So to do that, we need to know where they come from.
Yeah, that's great. So there's so much knowledge out there on the internet, but you take a lot of this knowledge that you could not put on your YouTube channel. For instance, like I've gone there and I've learned some really awesome things. You could not put that on there and make it a closed door policy that you're going to pay me if you want this resource. Why do you feel like you share that with so many people? It's very valuable information.
I feel like if you have valuable information and you keep it to yourself, it becomes less valuable. I don't want people to depend on me. That doesn't make us a valuable company. I want somebody to work with us to get phenomenal results that they actually have this emotional need to tell everybody about because of how great it was. And if somebody finds our stuff online, uses it for free, and gets what they needed, they're still going to tell people about us. And there's enough people out there who do need the one-on-one support, that we're going to be just fine. And the other thing is, from a business perspective, if we're doing a better job for people for free than other people are in their paid service, it's going to be really hard to beat us.
Absolutely, for sure. And I think, again, like, I think what you're doing is it catches on and it's contagious, and attitudes are contagious. Another fact. Oh, this is a good one.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
You looked at me with that.
No, because I was like,
oh, my God.
This is a really good one.
I don't have my phone to fact check.
It's kind of gross.
Shoot.
But,
I don't either.
so they did this study, and they were trying to figure out.
Who's they?
That's the hard part.
Exactly.
I read a lot of things. I mean, I don't know. There are a lot of resources.
Don't
have
analyze
many
it too hard right up
books.
front.
They said it was a cheetah.
Don't get me started.
The cheetah and the alligator.
If you show a cheetah and a leopard at distance, no one's gonna really know the difference.
Ellie, don't say that because everybody knows the difference.
Especially
Trey, do you know the
Joel.
difference, like looking at a cheetah and looking at a leopard?
What
like,
do
could you-
their, I don't want to say skin, what color fur do both of them have, or do they have different color fur?
You're not a good question writer.
That was a horrible question.
He hasn't answered the question. I got a fact for you today too, Dre.
20 minutes we spent on this at the gym today, pre-workout.
She found a video of a leopard taking down an alligator or crocodile. I don't know the difference between those two, and I was
I
like,
do.
the cheetah cannot. And she's like, yeah. I was like, I've seen the video. It's a leopard. She's like, no, it's a cheetah. And the video is definitely a leopard.
Definitely.
They're both tan and spotted. From 10 feet away, you can't tell the difference.
Trice, do you know the difference between a cheetah and a leopard?
He's like,
He could definitely, if we had pictures, I know he could
would
point them out.
He would point to
you
the
just
right one.
looked it up, Dre. You didn't know the difference. Did you know what color they were? But from this far away, they're both spotted.
The style of their bodies are completely different.
The face. So in a blurry YouTube video where one's ripping
The
a
body
crocodile.
of a leopard is like you're looking at Arnold versus a marathon runner.
Yeah.
Again,
Yeah, that's good.
Because
That's a good
you're a
analogy.
zoologist.
That's a good
It's
analogy.
also 2017. Your YouTube video shouldn't be blurry.
Yeah, that's true. That was a crappy
What?
YouTube video. It's like, what did
What'd
they
you
film
say,
it
Dre?
with? A potato?
No, exactly. I don't think most people know the difference between what they look like unless you're a zoologist.
I'm not a zoologist.
Yeah.
I'm just educated, and I know the difference between a cheetah and a leopard, appearance-wise.
Okay, I gotta get. I'm gonna
Sorry,
get back
your
to
study.
this.
The study that they
but I gotta-
did.
Since,
They did,
But
okay.
since we engaged Dre, I just want to tell him, Dre, you
You're
want to know what
putting
your
Trice
fact
to
is?
sleep.
I looked this up for you today, Dre.
Look at that look. Did you see that look?
He just looked at you like, what's she talking about, Dad?
You're crazy. Dre, for anyone that doesn't know, loves ketchup. So if you really want to compliment Dre, you should send him bottles of ketchup.
Oh, that would be so good. Preferably opened and lined.
If you could see the Dre hates
No.
ketchup.
Dre
So-
wouldn't
Don't send
try
ketchup.
for like $1,000.
He won't. Talk about GoFundMe. But did you know ketchup was sold in the 1830s as medicine? So maybe you're onto something, Dre. Maybe it just caught on before because no one really wants medicine.
You're getting this off of a Pinterest board.
No, I'm not. It's not that.
What are those?
Something else.
That's a Pinterest board.
Get out of my business.
That is a Pinterest
No,
board.
it's not.
You were looking at
Okay,
like
can I get back to my story?
somebody made something. You know, like
Can people
They're
follow you on
accurate.
Pinterest?
I
You're
don't have a
Pinterest guy?
Pinterest.
No
My wife
ketchup.
does.
No cat. What?
Look at this though.
No,
hold
get
on.
it, get
This
it
is
over
where
it.
she got that fact from.
Ketchup was sold. Yeah, that's awesome. Some
This is where
9-year-old
she got this
girl.
fact from.
Boards, okay?
Some 9-year-old
Maybe
kid
I
did
typed
that.
it in myself.
That was
I like turquoise.
That was a gangster call out, by the way.
Gosh. Well, yeah, that's about hippopotamuses, but we'll talk about that
Let's
later.
get back to
That
this.
was-
Okay, this is a study.
That
This
used to
is
be my
real life.
favorite zoo animal
Was
when
it
I was a kid,
hippopotamus?
apparently, and then until I went into the hippopotamus house at the Detroit Zoo, and it's disgusting. Apparently, I didn't
Is
know
that
that.
why you're so angry? Hippopotamuses seem kind of angry.
So what's your fact?
Yeah,
Oh,
go with
sorry.
the,
Yeah,
the
we
study
just-
that they
this
did.
is a study. I mean, it's from my favorite FBI lady. Anyway, so she talks a lot about how like attitudes are contagious, and way back when people were doing the study about like getting big, going into a room, and they disproved that. But anyway, so what they did in this study was they took sweat pads and they put them under the armpits of people who are going skydiving. And they took these sweat pads and they collected them and they had poor college students smell them.
Oh,
and
what are we
as they were
doing?
under these scanners reading the parts of your brain. And then they had another group smell sweat pads that had nothing on them. And the people that were under the scanner and smelled the sweat pads of the skydivers, it stimulated the part of the brain that showed fear. So you can literally your
Smell fear.
attitudes and yes, that what you're conveying is contagious. So when you're afraid,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
will become afraid. Well, you don't act like that's like awe-inspiring to me.
What am I
No.
conveying right now?
I'm gonna go sit over there.
Well,
He's a hippopotamus.
But that's the whole, you become what you think. That's
I agree.
to me that's the same idea. It's to me that the difference between the person who wins the CrossFit Games and the person who comes in 7th might be that the person who won actually set out to win, and the person who came in 7th was like, I just want to do my best.
I'm just here to have fun. I
Yeah.
want a medal, participation medal.
Yeah, and we talked about this a little bit this weekend, but
Yesterday,
it's the idea of I understand the idea of just do the best that you can do each day, and it will amount to the best that you can do. I also feel like you need something to pull you towards the best that you can do each day, and if you're not willing to jump out there and say, hey, this is what I want. I want to be the best in the world. I am going to be the best in the world. Then the likelihood is really low that you ever get there.
That's like training with the hippopotamus.
1,000% agree with that.
Yeah. If you're gonna win at that level, you have to take what I call purposeful risks.
Mm-hmm.
You absolutely have to be out there on that edge.
Yeah.
Day in and day out. When I woke up every day, that was my goal, was to win the CrossFit Games.
When did that happen for you? Like, when did that become your goal?
Well, I guess after sectionals the first year, really, I was like, all right, this is what I'm going to try to do. And then especially after 2010, when I fell off the rope.
Then you woke up every day and you were like, I'm going to be the best.
So that was my goal for that day.
How many rope climbs do you think you did in that year?
Thousands. I can't even tell you probably how many.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Did you have rope climbs come up a lot after that in the following year?
What do you mean? At the games? Just
Yeah.
that one,
They came up right away, though.
the first event, or not first event, it was one of the first events. It was
Yeah.
the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 clean and jerks with the same amount of rope climbs.
It was almost like, let's see if he fixed it.
Yeah, let's see what happens here.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then I think there's been a rope climb at least in the season every year since then, since that first
Yeah.
year. Whether it's regionals or the games, I can't remember.
And then they went to legless, and then they went to legless that starts 7 feet.
Yeah, if they
in
would
the
have done legless from the start, I'd have been all right.
air. Yeah.
Next, they'll light the rope on fire and do
Yeah.
this.
Alligators and
Oh, yeah. Piranhas.
Jaguars and
jaguars and
cheetahs.
hippopotamus and crocodiles.
Well, I mean, I will say, though, like the first year that we came when Rich went from individual to team, it was, and I tell people this all the time, it was an experience that it's almost surreal to go back to, because there wasn't a day that he didn't have an expectation for us, regardless of who we were on that team, that we were going to be doing all of these things that he's like, you can do that. Why is that even a question? Every day. And suddenly you were doing things that if you asked me a year ago when I was training by myself if I would do, I never would have done.
I felt that while I was here.
Yeah.
Listen, I can. Yesterday we
hey,
did
you
the-
did 25 sandball cleans at your body weight. That was impressive.
awesome.
That was
And
impressive.
And I confession, I was telling Tyler, I have that sandbag at my house.
Yeah.
And I've tried to get it over my shoulder.
Really?
And I keep getting it to my chest, and I'm like, I can't get it over my shoulder.
You did it 25 times.
And
or
I was
something.
like, I'm not going to not get this in Rich Froning's garage.
I mean, well
Crushed it.
done.
Crushed
thank
it.
you.
That's awesome.
And the tire.
Plus a 400-meter run around because you were chasing the sandbag. Like,
Yeah.
I was like, where the heck is he going? I look over and he's like over by the door.
Wherever I had to go.
Wherever that sandbag was,
Yeah,
you were there.
Exactly.
That's awesome.
It's crazy. You're talking about this whole fear idea. We've all been around people who were afraid, and it's almost, well, you said smell it. It's almost like you can. It's osmosis almost. Even before you can quantify it, you just know it, and it makes people uncomfortable to get around somebody who's afraid. And you certainly can't. I've dealt with athletes who were afraid in football to go out on the field, and they were afraid of what might happen, and they can't compete at 100%.
No.
If that's anything that's in your mind or your heart, there's no way you can go out there and be free and be in the moment.
Well, it's the idea. It's the custom motto to Mike Tyson: turn your fear into rage. Right? You know, I'm comfortable enough to say that
Yeah.
I'm scared every day that what we're doing, someone else is going to come and do it better. So I'm like, well, that scares the pants off me. So let's just make sure we keep doing it
Getting
better.
Yep.
Yeah, I think at the root of that fear is being worried to fail, and you have to be willing to fail.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Everything you do in CrossFit's all about that.
Yeah,
We're
you're
going
gonna
to
fail.
go to failure.
Yeah.
That's going to happen. It should happen today.
Yeah.
We want to get there.
I think
Right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that you see too, like being up here and seeing all the people that kind of go through the turnstile that come to visit Rich or Mayhem. And you actually see like when there's a group of athletes in there and there's 4 of them that have won the CrossFit Games. And then there's like all of these other different levels of athletes training together. You see the minute difference between A and B, and it's this big. I mean, it might be this big physically, but the way that person thinks, the way they execute, their expectation of themselves and the people around them is the tiniest difference. And that's the best in the world versus everyone else. And it's crazy that it takes that tiny little difference to make all the difference.
Because it's that tiny little difference times however many reps you do every day, times however many days you do those reps,
right?
However many weeks, month, right? That's
exponent.
Yeah, it's 1 inch times 150 muscle ups today.
Yeah.
You know, it's and then add that into what was done this morning and what was done yesterday and what you guys do every day. And I was telling Rich that one of the things that I'm so impressed by when I came out here is you guys have a business mentality to what you do. You know, I've been to other places, I've worked with other athletes, and this is not to discredit anybody else or to take away from them. When you're here, though, it's okay, we can be friendly, we can have a good time, but when it's time to work, it's time to work. You know, like we were in the pool this morning and we come out of the water, I'm like, and Lindy's like, 5. I'm like, what? 5 what? 5 seconds. And I was saying earlier in the car to Tyler, you know, at one point I said to Lindy, like, what are we doing next? And both Lindy and you looked up and you're like, it's the same thing. We're repeating it. I'm like, no, you don't understand.
I don't know what we just did.
I don't know what we just did because I have to be in this moment right now to do it at all. So I had no idea what we had just done.
Yeah.
I'm just like, I'm just going to go. Head down.
Yeah, sure. I'll just keep going until I don't see anybody.
Yeah,
When
exactly.
everybody stops, I'll stop.
Exactly.
But that's interesting too, because that's even like, so Tasia today, she's only been here for a couple weeks, and like she's sitting by the GHD, and like you and Rich like went to the back, and she's like, so we're gonna work out? Like everyone was feeling a little bit beat up today, and you know, she's like, so are we all just kind of like relaxing? Like it seems like kind of everyone's doing accessory, or are we working out again? And I was like, on days where we're beat up, it takes us longer to get there. And I said, I guarantee Rich is gonna come back out here, and this is gonna escalate really quickly. Sure enough, you came out there and like we swam, we did all this other stuff, and then you wrote this on the board and we're all like, sweet goodness. Like this is what we're gonna do. And that's how it goes. Even on days we're beat up, like we're just kind of like, it takes us a little longer to get to like him approaching the whiteboard and writing down whatever, I'm not gonna call it misery, awesome, great training we had
Today
for the
was
day.
misery. That wasn't fun.
But it's still gonna happen.
And the expectation is always the same. There are a bunch of us that come to the barn that work out that aren't games athletes, but even though we're scaling, the expectation is the same. Mm-hmm. You know, and everybody wants to be in that same space.
It doesn't hurt less because you're scaling. You're just scaling it to what you need to do. It still is really, really difficult, right?
No
if you
question.
scale appropriately, it should.
No question.
Should have the same. It should have the same stimulus.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It's as I've started this process and I'm beginning to learn these skills, my expectations because of the company I keep have gone way higher, and what I'm capable of and what I know I'm capable of is way more than it ever was. And
Sure.
what I know I can do now is growing all the time.
The way I post on social media changes based on the people I'm surrounding myself with, right? Because I don't, if somebody sees this podcast and they're like, oh, Rich works with Sean and Jim works with Sean and Ellie works with Sean, and then I make a post that's obviously offensive to people, it's like, well, why does Rich work with a guy who's making offensive posts about people?
Right.
I'm now, these people are now an extension of me. I can't do that.
Right.
So, not that I would like to make offensive
but
posts.
No, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're an extension of the people you work with.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So what would you say, and I mean, this could be a couple different levels, is the biggest mistake CrossFitters are making in regards to body maintenance? Like, I know that's a huge question. Like, it could be prehab, it could be rehab. Like, what do you think is like the biggest mistake?
The biggest single mistake?
Mm-hmm.
So, okay. Well, you know, I think most athletes now at least understand they need to do the accessory work. And when I say accessories, you know, I mean bicep curls, strict pressing, unilateral work, that kind of stuff, tempo. But I think that most athletes are just checking the box. I did some accessory work today. Okay, what was it? I did some shoulder presses and some RDLs on a single leg. Good. Like, well, what are you working towards? Just making sure I get it in, making sure I do some unilateral work, some pushing, some pulling. Right, but but what's your goal? What are you trying to get your single arm pressing to? Oh, I don't know. I just do it. Better than not doing it at all. But I think that if you want to go from being the person who is really competing at a high level to the person who has a chance to compete at the next level up, you need to create more durability for yourself. And the way you're going to do that is having a plan and a direction with all of the stuff that you're doing. And accessory work, to me, I hesitate to call what we do accessory work because earrings are accessories. You can go out without them. And to me, what we do, you can't go out without it. It doesn't mean we have to do it for you, but I feel like if you're doing accessory work, you're ahead of the game. If you're doing it with a plan where you're actually building something with your accessory work, then you're where you need to be.
So how do you educate yourself to know how to do that? Or is it that you get a plan and you work with someone like yourself? Like, I just feel like it's easy to say, hey, I saw someone doing a suitcase deadlift and it looks like it might be good for me, but figuring out the reps, the weight, the duration, how frequently, like that seems like a totally different ball game. And I think it's kind of like what you're saying.
It is. And because of that, we're launching a certification for coaches to learn how to do it.
That's cool.
But this is not, I'm not trying to pitch that, right? You can Google it. Everything that we do is Googleable.
Googleable.
Yeah.
Googleable.
I like it.
I love that word.
It's the truth. It's the reason why we have value is we get you there faster. It's not because you can't get there without us. You can put this information together and figure it out. It's just going to take you the trial and the pivot.
Yeah.
You have to be willing to be wrong for 6 years like we were. And next year we'll be doing something that we're not doing now. And something we're doing now we won't be doing anymore. And I'll have to tell an athlete, oh yeah, we used to do that, but we don't anymore. So you just need to be willing to do that. If you are, then by all means.
Do you love what you're doing? You seem really passionate about it.
I'm extremely passionate about what we're doing because I see so much out there where people are told these high level diagnoses. You have a disc herniation, a labrum tear, your rotator cuff is torn, so you can never do this again. And I hate that. It's so, it takes the power from somebody and then they become their condition. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't just affect their shoulder, it affects their life. And I hate that people have to go through that. So to me, I'm like, can you imagine if you had this diagnosis and you could still do everything that you wanted to do without having to sacrifice, the rest of your life? That's what I want to give to people. Cool. So I'm really passionate about it.
You talked a little bit about, when you got started, kind of how your dad's philosophy helped shape yours. What's your personal why and what's your business why?
Yeah, good question. So my personal why, I have a really, really, really deep-seated need to be in control of my own environment at all times. That doesn't mean I need to have control over you or you or you. I need to know that if I want to wear this shirt to work, I can. I can show up to work whatever time I want to get there. I can make as much money as I'm willing to work for. I can spend as much or as little time with my kids and my wife as I want. That is really, really, really important to me.
Okay.
And in order to do that, I need to make sure that the people I'm working with are taken care of first, because then they don't ask more of me than I can give them. The other why I have is I need to win. Winning for me is huge, and it's part
Fit
of
in well here.
Yeah,
well, it's
compete.
Frankly, it's part of the reason I don't compete in CrossFit. Right? Like I don't play pickup sports anymore. It's something I'm actually having an internal dialogue about, trying to get back to, because I don't think it's healthy. But I don't compete in CrossFit because I don't have enough in me naturally to get great,
right,
and to win at CrossFit, and I don't want to do the work that it takes, to find out.
Right.
So I'm like, I don't want to compete.
Right.
I just want to. I'm the guy before. I want to look good naked. I want to, play with my kids, and we're good.
Right.
My business why is to empower people, right, through educating them, inspiring them to start, right, and giving them the discipline to continue, because that is the thing that most people don't have. Everyone. Most people are like, yeah, I'll start that. Let's do it.
Yeah.
And then as soon as they're out of pain, they're like, no, I'm good. Let's get back to what I was doing before.
Right.
And like me, when you were standing next to a cliff with a blindfold and you thought you were safe.
Yeah.
And then you tripped.
Yeah.
You're still standing next to the cliff with a blindfold on. So I want to give people enough education that they're disciplined to continue.
Right. That's really good. One of my biggest professional frustrations is helping someone, and then now they feel a little bit better, and then they're done until they don't feel so good.
Right.
And they walk away from those principles that they've created. And I think I'm hearing you say kind of the same thing.
Yeah, and we want to teach coaches to do it. You know, I mean, it's. I heard someone say, I don't remember who it was, but I'm trying to put myself. And I know I talked to Tyler, who's sitting over there, about it before earlier. But it's we consistently ask ourselves, what kind of company would come along and put us out of business? So what would someone else have to do to make us irrelevant? And the answer is simple. If somebody taught coaches how to do what we do, we become way less relevant to everyone all over the world. And now you're with someone, so it's actually better than what we're doing. So I was like, all right, well, let's teach coaches how to do this then. You know, why don't we be the ones who do that?
Yeah.
So that's why we talk about the certification and all that kind of stuff, where we have seminars and people fly in from. We had 3 different countries and 8 different states at our last seminar.
That's awesome.
And we cap it at 20 people, so almost 40% were flying into town.
How many seminars have you had so far?
Ooh, we have staff who put on athlete seminars anywhere. So I think we've done about 40 of those.
Wow. That's a ton.
And then we have our coach workshops is always myself, my business partner, Dr. Jeremy, and then we have 2 staff members who we bring with us. We've done 3 of those so far, and we're really going to ramp it up in 2018 in terms of the volume that we're doing them at, and we're going to add a test to it, so it's going to be legit. And then there's going to be opportunities for coaches thereafter to learn how to make money with it, how to do a good job coaching their athletes, and how to get athletes to actually want to do it. Because another thing that drives me nuts in the coaching world is, I don't do this for the money.
Right.
Well, cool, then do it for free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? You don't do it for the money, but I was talking to Stuart Brower once on my podcast, and it was, he was quoting Greg Glassman. It's, well, nobody, airlines don't exist to burn jet fuel, but you need jet fuel to fly an airplane.
Yeah.
So you need money to run your business.
Yeah, no question.
That makes sense. You talk about being competitive. What was your sports background?
I played everything, right? I mean, on teams for the schools I went to, I ran cross country, played basketball, I wrestled, and I played baseball. The only one I was really good at was baseball. Basketball, I hustled. Cross country, I was the 5th guy on our team. I could run an 18-minute 5K, which was pretty cool on hills, but I can't do that anymore. And wrestling, I just got pounded every day. That's why I switched from wrestling to basketball, because the guy in front of me, I was like 103 pounds, so there was nowhere to go down.
Yep.
And the guy ahead of me took 8th in the country, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to be a senior on JV, get my ass kicked in practice. So I better find a different sport.
Yeah.
Well, so you had a brief running background. Rich ran 15 miles this weekend. What advice did you have for Rich following his big event this weekend?
Don't get hurt.
Well, my advice leading up to it was, if you don't think you should do it, please don't do it.
Yeah.
But then, you can't tell him.
I was going to say,
so.
yeah, that's
Doesn't work.
like
Doesn't work
fuel.
really well.
No, right. And so it was, look, it's got to be his decision. So, we give him enough information. If you decide you don't want to run it, then you don't run it.
Right.
But if you want to run it, he understands.
We ran it.
Right, we ran it.
You're here. You survived.
That's
I'm
right.
here. I'm here.
So afterwards, it's just back to the program. And just let's get back to doing what you do.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about that at all? I want to know how your body felt loop 1, 2, 3.
Loop 1 felt great.
Well, tell
Or
what it
give a
was.
little
So the
background,
Ragnar,
sorry.
the Ragnar relay, for those who don't know, a lot of times they do the Ragnar Road, which is basically from one location to another. You have, I think it's the same amount of people. I'm not 100% sure on the road one, but I think it's 8 people. And you have a van, and you basically just stop at different points and switch out. There's different legs. Well, so we did the trail version. We were in Tampa, Florida, at some state park. Do you remember the state?
Alafaya, I think.
Maybe something like that. And so there's 8 people. You have a campsite, campground, and there are 3 loops. There's a green loop, a yellow loop, and a red loop. The green loop was green loop was like 5.2 miles. Yellow loop was 4.8, and the red loop was like 5.6 or 5.8 miles, something like that. And so the way it worked was person 1 runs green. When they come back around on their loop, person 2 runs yellow, person 3 runs red. 4 goes to green, 5 yellow, and you keep going that until everybody's ran all 3 loops. And so basically we started at 3:30 in the afternoon, so I ran my first loop on yellow at I want to say like 7:30ish. because it was taking anywhere from 35 to 55 minutes per loop, depending on what loop you were on. And so I ran my first one at night. And the plan was, at first Dave had me and Dan in 7 and 8, kind of bringing up the as the anchors, and we were like, no, you should have Christy Ramo and Alex Parker to run the final, because they're really fast. Both of them had running backgrounds, and Christy's really fast. And so I ran my first one. It was about to come back around. Dave ran his second one just past midnight, I guess it was, midnight, 1 o'clock, and a storm came through, and so they shut it down for 4 hours. It was a lightning storm, and they were like, all right, for 4 hours, nobody's doing anything. And so it's piss pouring the rain. We're in tents, and then it's me, Vellner, and Dan in a tent. And so you try to get some sleep, but you can't really sleep because you're like, when is this thing going to start back up? Is it going to start back up? And so I remember waking up at one point, probably been asleep for 20 or 30 minutes, and Vellner was gone. And I'm like, all right, Vellner's 2 people in front of me. I need to, what's going on? Well, then I hear Vellner coming back, which means China's out there running. So then I had to get ready to go. And so I ran my second one, I think it was around 4:30 in the morning, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning. And then my final one at 11. But we got first in the CrossFit division and third overall. The teams that were first and second were way ahead of us, though. So, but it was a good time. Running is not something that I really enjoy. But being on trails and the nighttime aspect, and even though on my second leg, which was the fastest leg, time-wise, you could make up a lot of time. I did not make up a lot of time. It was raining really hard, and like I said, it was super early in the morning, but it was still fun. It was a good time I wouldn't want to do it from one location to the other, the whole road thing, because knowing how my joints and feet felt after running on trails, let alone being on the road. But it was a good time. It was kind of cool at night. It was you're in the swamp basically, so it was kind of like Jurassic Park.
It's cool. Funny that you're running at 4:30, 5:30 in the morning, because when we showed up at your gym the first day, you guys drop-ins? No one knew who we were. I'm like, no, we're here to work with Lindy and with Rich and with the team. And someone's like, it's 6 in the morning. And I'm like, yeah. Lindy's gonna be here in a minute. And they're like, oh, but Rich. And I was like, no. They're like, Rich thinks 5 o'clock's on another planet.
Yeah. I don't do 5 o'clock unless I'm trying to go after something and hunt. That's about the only time I get up that early. But yeah, no, I don't do early. 8 o'clock's about my 7:30. 8 o'clock's early for me. So yeah, the 4 o'clock thing was not fun, but it was a good time. A great group of people to hang out with, and eventually I would do another one, depending on, it wasn't real fun on the meniscus knee, but
how did it end up feeling?
Sore. Yeah. Real sore. I was great. Actually, it felt really good through the first run. The second run, not so great, and then the third run, I was like, okay, I'm done with this. I'm over this. And so it swelled up a little bit, but it's getting
When did the rest of your body start to hurt? Just curious. On loop 1, 2, 3, after the fact, how did the rest
after 3?
of you feel?
You just didn't. Honestly, my feet and my right calf, and I'm probably my right calf because I was probably favoring it over my left knee. Got a little tight, but honestly, really the only thing that was super sore the next day was my feet. My feet hurt really bad, and that's just. The most I ran was 5K leading up to it. So, and that was on an assault runner with some walking intervals in there, so I didn't really prepare. Let's be honest there. Because
do you know if Angelo was still alive?
Angelo,
because he ran it and nobody has seen him at all.
Angelo was on the other team, and I still don't know who Morning Chalk Up is, but apparently it's a daily they send out daily updates or something, or kind of like a news thing on CrossFit, I assume. And so they had a team, and they started talking trash about beating us, and we took it on ourselves to beat them by 58 minutes.
They're getting some good publicity out of it,
Angelo,
though.
I guess. But I still don't know who they are.
Well, the last we heard was he said something online about I've got room service.
Oh yeah,
and then no one's heard of him since.
We haven't talked to him since.
He said he had unlimited room service, and we're like, what does that even mean? How do you even come across that?
And he hasn't showed up to the gym since then.
No, we don't know if he's alive or not. We hope so.
Yeah, so I know at one point after my second run, Angelo was the 7th person on their team. I was the 5th. And I know at one point after the second run, I was laying in the tent, and I hear somebody come screaming down the trail, Angelo! Angelo, where are you? And he was getting his ankle taped because he twisted his ankle several times,
gosh.
he said. So
His ankle was already all messed up,
Yeah,
supposedly.
from doing MMA.
Yeah, from the
Yeah.
MMA class that
Dre,
him and Dre
him and
have.
Dre are in MMA class.
Him and Dre and Darren, I think.
Darren's not anymore. Darren's
Oh.
retired, I think, from MMA.
Down
He's
there.
got his own like dojo in the basement.
He does. He's like
All kinds of boxing
he
stuff.
always
and
sends pictures of
fighting
his
stuff in there.
new.
Knocking suckers out.
I'm just wondering if like the bag ever comes back and hits him in the face, you know, when no one's around, and you're like, oh, geez.
No,
you
that
know?
only happens to you.
That didn't happen to me. I've missed the bag one time. It
The
was
big
before-
heavy bag?
No, the speed bag at,
Oh, okay.
at Rogue. I think there's some
Where
video
was
of it.
that?
It's at
Dre,
Rogue.
did you take that video? I think it was my left hand, though, to be fair.
Speed bags are hard.
They are kind of hard to get the rhythm of.
It takes a little bit of rhythm, a little bit of skill.
Oh, that was funny, though. That was a good time. So I did see on your story when you guys were on your way here something really interesting. You were talking about your rental car experience.
Yeah.
And you spent some time, and, you know, fix the story if I butcher it, because I probably will.
Okay.
Discussing how you started talking to the rental car person, you got to know the person, you asked them some questions, found some things you had in common, and then eventually asked for a different car and a discounted rate. And, you know, I think the final message was, you know, it's about how you make people feel. And I was like, that's an incredibly valuable message to put on your story. Could you just share a little more about that? I thought that was cool.
Sure. The bottom line is we didn't want to be driving around a Toyota Yaris.
So that's where it came from.
Right. So we really didn't want to be doing that. And we didn't want to be spending what it would cost to get a premium car. Mm-hmm. And you know that they can give you a premium car for the price of a lesser car. Like, nobody gets hurt when that happens.
I didn't know that.
No, they don't. You know, it's going to sit there.
It's going to sit there and do nothing.
Right. So basically the message was we wanted a premium car. But if you walk up to the thing, you're like, hey, so we reserved a Yaris, but we'd like a Challenger.
Yeah.
Can we do that? They're going to say no. Yeah. Or, yeah, you can,
Why?
but it's going to, right?
Yeah.
You can, but it's an additional $36 per day. So instead of coming up with, with the ask, I came in with, hey, my name is Sean. What's your name? It was Ryan. So now I'm going to use Ryan as much as possible in my sentences. Like, hey, Ryan, so how long have you been working here for? Kind of trying to delay the whole process. I've been working here for 1.5 years. I used to work at Hertz. Oh, man, why'd you leave Hertz? I just didn't like the company. I can't stand Hertz.
That's what you said.
Yeah.
So he said, I used to work there. And and you're like, I can't. No
man,
Hertz for me.
I was just going to get a rental car at Hertz.
You like
and
yellow?
they were
I
not,
hate the color
yeah,
yellow.
they weren't friendly. but it's finding the somewhat stretching the truth in that case, right? Because it was a rental car, not somebody's life. But I wanted him to have some things in common with me. He did talk about what he didn't like about Hertz, and they were things about a business that I don't like, that we try not to do in ours. So I made sure to explain to him in our business how we don't do that. So basically, the idea was I wanted this guy to like me before I asked him for something. So we're having conversation, get him to like me a little bit. And it's just like asking a girl on a date. You don't just walk over and be like, yo, babe, you want to go out? But so,
Can you touch your elbows behind your
yeah,
back?
exactly. That's a bad idea. So I bought him a few drinks. And then it was, hey, we would, how much, what's the best car you have on the lot? I have this one. Okay, great. And what were we going to be paying? Okay, can we get that car for that price? It would be awesome. We're going to meet some new people, and we want to
They like
make
Dodge Challengers.
Yeah, they're Dodge people. But we're like, we want to make a good showing,
Yeah.
and it would be awesome if you could help us out and give us a better car than the one that we're supposed to be getting for the price that we can afford to pay. And he was like, basically, long and short of it, no problem.
So was that the first sentence out of his mouth?
Success.
Like what were his
Did
he look at you sideways? Did he kind of analyze?
So he went like, he was like, and then what I tell people is the next person who talks is going to lose. Right? So I just waited. And then he said, let me see what I can do. I said, I appreciate that, Ryan. Thank you. And he looked it up. He's like, I can give you this car. I can't get it down to that price, but we can give you a full tank of gas, which is this much money. And when you add that into the price, you're going to get the price you were asking for. Is that cool? I'm like, that would be amazing. I really appreciate that. And that was it.
That's good. So here's my translation of that.
Then we lost one of the keys, so it's going to be costing us the full price.
$1 million.
My translation: care about somebody, actually really care about them, at the heart level. You got to have a little kabuki dust about you. You heard me say that. A little bit of magic when you start to talk, and then understand the X's and O's. That's what a great person or a great communicator can do.
I like that.
Yeah.
Can you say that one more time? I thought
Care about somebody. Actually care about them. Hey, Ryan, how are you? What's up?
Use his name.
Yeah. I mean, try to connect with them. That's what I heard you say. You know, talked about hurts and those things.
Yep.
So that's legit. We're getting in that conversation. Then have a little kabuki dust, a little magic. You know, be able to say something that gets somebody's attention, gets them paying attention, and then you got to understand the X's and O's. That's
those are great. Those are really valuable, I think.
A great coach or great communicator can do those things.
It applies to any situation. You just have to know what's available, right? So you have to do your research. People come into coaching and they're like, "I want you to do 15 muscle ups in a row," and you're like,
What's a
"Why?
muscle up?
Why do I like? I don't understand. I need to know what you want, and then we can talk about, well, why do you want that? And then we can talk about how I can understand why you would want that. You know, we're gonna build. I need to look the part. I can't be coaching you in a 3-piece suit, so I'm gonna look the part. And then we need to find some credibility. You need to believe I know what I'm talking about. Then we need some commonality. We need to be on the same level. You're like, he doesn't understand me. And then I need to demonstrate intent. I'm doing this for you. It's not for me. It's for you. And then maybe you'll do it.
That's fair. That's great. So how do you guys, this is an open question. How would you guys, what's your definition of strength?
Good catch. Of what?
Strength.
Oh, that's a versatile
It
word.
can be mental, physical, whatever you want. But what is your definition of strength?
The ability to do things that either you couldn't do before or that other people can't do.
I like that.
I think about strength in it's a part of my actual code. It's the strength and honor code is what I live by. And I like strength in terms of being unmovable, steadfast. Here's who I am, here's what I'm doing. That's strength to me.
That's awesome.
And strength to Rich
He's got
is
strength going on right now. So we'll take that as his mental, physical strengths.
Just hanging on here, guys.
While you're here, I have to ask this question.
Sure.
Something that I see, because this really kind of is applicable to me. We get guys that are in their mid-30s to 40s that come to the gym and they're new CrossFitters. And they don't make it very long. And a lot of times the story is the shoulders.
Yep.
And I know that's what almost did me in. Literally, I couldn't put the bar over my head. And so I'm all the time trying to reach out to those guys because I see them come in. I start to see them be frustrated. And, you know, you look over at some of the girls and they're doing way more weight. And that really kind of hits you, you know, in your heart, in your masculinity. What do you say to that guy? Where do we start?
So
to give them some
it only
advice?
hits you in your masculinity if you identify by the weight you're lifting.
And
Right.
and the guys that are coming are doing that. For sure, that's not where I got started, and I'm still
Right.
here. But that's what they're happening, man. They're looking over and saying, "Man, that girl's doing way more weight than me, and my shoulders hurt." And
I understand.
Yeah.
You know, it has to start with them.
yeah,
So you need to be able to reach out to those guys. As the person from the gym,
right.
you want to be able to reach out and say, "Hey, John," let's assume his name is John. You know, I notice that you're frustrated because of whatever's going on, and I know that your shoulders are bothering you, and I know that that's not what you want.
Right.
You know, I know that you really want to be able to come in here, get in shape, do what needs to get done, and be a part of this community. And if there's anything I can do to help you, please let me know. And that's not me saying, like, come to me if you need me. It's
Yeah.
me asking you
Yeah.
for permission to help you.
Yeah,
I want to be there to help you. So let's start with this. Are you cool with that?
yeah,
Because that person just needs their perspective shifted.
right.
You know, like I did a workout yesterday that was 75 pull-ups, 50 wall balls, and 25 clean and jerks. And I did the same weight that Ellie and Lindy did on the clean and jerks. I did a heavier wall ball.
Let it be known.
But they both beat me.
Right.
And
Right.
it didn't. Then I
Right.
had lunch.
Yeah.
You know, like it didn't affect my day. So it shouldn't.
Yep. No question.
You know, so I think that it's getting those guys to understand why they're actually there, and to understand that this is this person's training age. You might be a 40-year-old man.
Yeah.
She might be a 25-year-old woman.
Yeah.
But she's a 5-year-old trainer, and you're a 3-day-old trainer. You can't expect to be
absolutely.
better.
Where do you start them physically? You know, is it the flexibility, mobility,
Everybody.
the pyramid?
So okay. Good question. So for us, everybody starts with flexibility.
Yeah.
If you don't have requisite range of motion, you don't do prescribed movement. So let's say, for example, in our gym, it was Grace, 30 clean and jerks for time. But when you lay on the ground, you can't do this and bring your arm to the floor. You can't get your arms to your ears. And you have some shoulder pain.
Yeah.
You're not doing 30 clean and jerks.
Right.
It's not a responsible thing for us to do
Right.
if you're coming in achy. So you might do 30 cleans and then 30 landmine presses.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Right. There's a lot of, or you might do it with dumbbells because that can end up over here as opposed to over here, and you're not going to the games.
Yeah.
But who cares? So to me, it's really getting the whole community to understand why we're here, and that why these people are here is not for the same reason.
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, that's good stuff. That's good advice.
Yeah, I mean, for people who've come to our gym understand that you might see on the board that we're squatting today.
Yeah.
But because you've tested with our staff that you do 8 times as much work on your left leg as you do on your right leg. So when we're squatting, you're stepping up.
Yeah.
You know that. You see the board, you know your weight, you know your sets, you know you're going single leg instead of squatting, and you don't feel bad because there's 9 other people doing it in class with you.
Yeah, absolutely. Getting that guy to have the right particular mindset, understand, I like to say what lane he's in, is a really big deal.
Yes.
I've heard you say that before. I like that. Know which lane you're in. I think that's hugely valuable.
Well, you can get out of that lane. That's you need to start in your lane.
Yeah, we change lanes.
Yeah,
we speed up
when it's clear.
Yeah.
Right.
You look in your mirrors before you change lanes.
Absolutely. That's good stuff. I like it.
How would you describe yourself, and how do you wish people would describe you?
Good question. I would describe myself as extremely driven, knowledgeable, caring. I would like people to see me that way, right? I don't think there's a lot of people I've come across in my life where before I understood how my actions affected others, maybe wouldn't see me that way. I used to be the guy who was like, if you don't like me, you can move on. And I've learned since that that's not a mature way to behave, and that it's not going to make me successful. And my biggest thing is I want to win, and I want control over myself, and I'm not going to get those things if I don't have the first one.
Was there an event or a time in your life that something happened that made you change your thought? Because I think that's a lot of people have it's my way or the highway, and this is who I am, and if you don't like it, you don't what was there something that changed that for you, or is it just a series of events, or just one day you woke up and you're like, oh, okay, I don't feel that way anymore?
So I've always kind of felt like, and this is going to sound really arrogant, I think, but I've always felt like I should be doing big things, and I wasn't. So we were moving, and people, it was things were picking up, but I never felt like I was doing what I should be doing on the level I should be doing it at. So I hired a coach, someone to basically teach me about business. That was my thought. And he came in, and it was like, this is not going to be about business the way you think it is. This is going to be about you as a person. We're going to make you a better person, and that's going to make you better at business. So
it was you had a coach.
I hired a coach. Yeah.
How did you find your coach?
He happened to be a patient in my gym who was a successful business person, and we, both Jeremy and I decided we need, every great athlete has a coach. Why shouldn't business people have a coach? So we went to him. We said, hey, I don't know if you do this or not. I don't know if you know how to do it, but we would love somebody to coach us to make us better. And he was like, yeah, I do this, but you need to be really committed because frankly, you guys can't afford me. And we're like, oh, we're making decent money. What do you cost? He's like $10,000 a month. And we're like, okay, can't afford you.
Jeez, $10,000 a month.
But so, we're like, for what? And he's like, you get a 3-hour meeting every month. And we're like, we can't afford that.
That hour breakdown, what's $10,000 and
about
3 hours?
$3,300.
Wow, I want to know how much per minute that is.
A lot.
More than you need.
Right. But so because he was a member of our gym, he was a patient in our clinic, and he likes us, he's like, I want to see you guys be successful, so I'm going to do it for you for a nice, hefty discount on that. I went home and told my wife, and she's like, you're paying him what? It's like, we have to do it. So we're working together, and the first day I came home, and I learned nothing about business. It was just about how to be a better person. And I came home, and she was like, whatever you're paying him, it's worth it. Keep doing it.
Can you share what one of those things was that first day?
Yeah. So he taught us a few things the first day. He taught us how to understand our why, right? It's a big thing you talk about.
Yep.
It's not just this is who I am. It's why am I that way? And Ellie's totally different than me. So I need to be empathetic to how Ellie is because that's who Ellie is. And if I'm not, then the things I want to be able to do with Ellie aren't going to happen because I'm not seeing things from your perspective. He taught us that we need to work harder than the person we're having a conversation with at all times to make that conversation successful. Because if you're really comfortable in a conversation, it means you're not thinking enough. And if you're not thinking enough, you're just doing what's comfortable for you, and that might not be comfortable for somebody else. And that the whole thing goes back to, for us, it's never about you, right? Like, someone is not mean to you because they don't like you. They're mean to you because the actions that you put forth offended them in some way, and then their response to that is to be mean back to you. So just kind of taught me to start looking at life through a different lens. And you can't see now because I have a toddler who lost it, but it was the first time I ever bought and wore a wedding ring. Well, I bought one before, but I never wore it because I was like, this thing's uncomfortable. I don't want to wear this. It's annoying. I work out. I treat patients. I'm always taking it off. But it was important to my wife that I wear one. And I was like, babe, like, I'm not sleeping around. What are you worried about? That day, I went online, bought a new wedding ring that I thought would fit me better and be more comfortable. And I was like, hey, bought a wedding ring. She was like, whatever you're paying them.
Keep paying it.
Gotcha. That
Yeah.
circles back.
Yeah,
Be a better person.
it really is.
Be a better person. That's always the foundation.
Yeah, and people talk all the time about, like, do more for somebody else than you ask them to do for you.
Mm-hmm.
And there's two things to that. You have to do more for people than you ask them to do for you, or then you're using them,
Yeah.
right? The other part of that is eventually, it's okay to ask someone to do for you if you're doing a lot for them and they trust you and you've done well by them.
Yeah.
So people jump to, hey, can you do this for me? Why would I want to do this for you?
Yeah.
Why would someone want to do this for you?
Right.
Do so much for somebody else that they ask you how they can help.
Yeah, that's good. Outside of self.
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody asked me one time, who's your coach? And he asked me, who is your coach? And I really like what you had to say. I think everybody needs a coach, or they need people in their lives. I'm always saying 2 or 3 people in your lives that you're willing to listen to. Preferably maybe a little older than you, a little more experienced, but you're willing to listen to them. And what you're trying to gain is perspective. What we're chasing is perspective. And it's like trying on a new pair of pants. Try them on. You don't have to do what that person says, but at least you're willing to listen to the perspective, because we all have these blind spots that we don't see.
For sure. I mean,
And we need somebody who in our life who are willing to kind of pay attention to and listen to their perspective.
My greatest mentors in life are my parents.
Yeah.
Right? I'm fortunate. I have amazing parents.
Yep.
I never wanted for anything growing up, and I was never given anything I didn't deserve. It was like I was upset in 3rd grade that my teacher didn't do something that I thought she should do. So my parents were like, well, let's go to school, and you're going to tell her.
Yeah.
And we'll stand behind you, but you're going to tell her.
Yeah.
So they taught me I needed to fend for myself, and it's not, the world doesn't just happen for you.
Yeah.
They've taught me a lot. And then it was, okay, there's certain things that, despite my father being successful, my mother being a really, really smart woman who's successful in her own right, they're still your father and your mother. And when it comes to business, I'm like, I'm not really interested in listening to you.
Yeah.
So you
understand
have to
that.
move elsewhere.
Yeah, I understand that.
What other qualities do they possess that you looked up to? You said they were your, mentors.
So my father is a really, really magnetic person. He's the guy who he saw that I was upset that I was really good at baseball, and all the baseball players were playing soccer in the fall because there was no baseball, and I hated soccer. So we started a fall baseball league that now has grown into like one of the biggest baseball leagues for little leaguers on Long Island. He turned 40-something years old and was tired of playing softball with young guys who were drinking and taking the game way too seriously for him. So he started a 40 and over league, and now he has over 700 players in his league. He had a business that was successful, and he never missed a little league game, and he coached. So it was, for me, I'm like, you can be successful and you can still put your family at first when it's family time. And so for me, that was a huge thing. Right? That's why I went into chiropractic. I'm like, I want to be like this guy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
My mother is the kind of person who, she's the softer side. You know, my father would never want to hear me say this, but she's smarter than him. You know, she graduated from University of Pennsylvania and NYU combined in 3 years. And she's the one who, like, when you're saying something and my father's like, you don't understand, she's like, what he's trying to say is.
The translator.
Yeah, so I learned from her kind of how you can be soft but strong at the same time, where you don't have to pound somebody into submission. You can kind of just be intelligent, use your words, and get to a place where someone has to make a decision.
That's great. Could we circle back to the coach that kind of changed your perspective on things? Was there something that he possessed that made you decide what he was saying was true and worth you changing? Or was it monetary?
He had a lot of money. He has a lot of money, number one, and he's the kind of person who, when he's in a room, if he's talking, everyone in the room's eyes are where he is. So it was, I want to be the person who, when I'm in a room and I'm talking, everybody's eyes are where I am. And that means what I'm saying needs to be valuable, and it means the people in the room need to trust me. So how do I get that?
Right. That's great. That's awesome.
I mean,
I think that we're starting to reach our podcast limit over here.
I think so too. I think we exceeded that a little bit by 2 kids.
They did pretty good.
They did good.
That's pretty
They did
awesome.
Good job, guys.
Awesome.
Thank you,
Sean. That was
Yeah,
That was really good stuff. Great insight.
no problem. My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Episode 10.
Oh, perfect. Perfect 10.
Perfect 10.
Perfect
there
10.
it is.
My number was always 11, but I'll take episode 10.
10. That'll do.
Yeah.
CrossFitMayhem.com. What else, Dre? Everything's on CrossFitMayhem.com. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Sean.
No problem. My pleasure.